welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Lia.
Hey.
Wow, that got awkward fast.
We're done.
We're done. We've reached the end of the line. We have no more to talk about.
I actually have so much to talk about that it like sits inside of my face. I'm like, when can I say what I want to say?
Can we talk about this? Yeah.
Do you know what happened this week? Or actually last night on Twitter, one of our followers said that he is creating a book that's going to be better than fantasy for Jerrica of We'd Rather Be Reading with all of the love triangles.
There's going to be at least 6 people in
Can't
that.
wait. I cannot
A sextagon, a proper one.
Yeah, rubber sextagon. I love it.
Yeah.
New word.
It's going to be great. It's a new word. Anyways.
That makes me feel famous.
Yeah. You should.
Thanks.
So famous. So famous.
And I finished the series that I was reading previously. Oh, it's so freaking good. Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown. Holy crap, it was good. Like, I'm obsessed with every single character except, you know what they did in there? They threw a brownie in and made it very similar to like that pixie that we had in the other book that we were reading. And then that brownie / pixie in that really horrible, weird book we read for our book club that one time. Yeah. Where all she did was get captured and saved. That's it.
Captured, saved, captured. Yeah, because you were like, oh, you should read this. She's been captured 6 times. And I'm like, why would I want to read something where someone's captured 6 times?
I mean, technically, she's just getting stolen from one group to another group because they want to use her for her information and also for her magic, which she doesn't know what her magic is. And actually, what her magic is, which I'm not going to give away, was something I didn't see coming. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was not like a gargoyle situation where you're like, what the fuck is this?
I know, I expect everyone to be gargoyles. It's a new vampire.
But
Gargoyles
I thought,
are the new vampire.
because I had this series on my list for so long, and we didn't read it because there was this one really bad review on Goodreads, and you were like, no, it's a bad review. I don't like what this girl said.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a little bit mistaken because the girl said how boring it was for this guy to be 100% hard the whole book. But there's no sex in 2 whole books, or like 2.5 whole books. And like, I think maybe they're in prison and they have like some connection, and at some point they're fighting and he rubs his boner against her, and that's where this girl got that like review from. And I thought, but that's misleading, because this made me think that there was going to be a bunch of smut in this book, and there is not.
Okay, well, reviews are just not always right.
No.
But I do like reading the negative reviews just to kind of see what I'm getting myself into, because, well, I like to know when it's going to be bad.
So the 4th book of the Savage Lands came out actually October 5th, and I finished it. Mm-hmm. And then the next one doesn't come out till January, and I was like, what? There's a 5th book? I think that's too much. Like, can we talk about, like, how long should series be?
Yes, we should talk about this, because this is a problem in some, like, some book series just go on for forever. Like, you haven't read them yet, but the J.R. Ward series...
Yeah.
About vampire, it's the Dagger Blood, whatever, Brotherhood, something or other. I can't remember what they're called now. But I have read most of those books. I did stop at one point because it got a bit much. But there are so many books in this series. And then it's like, because you were in the same series, then it gets repetitive. Like, sorry, my cat is joining in on this podcast now too. She has opinions, I know.
Cake is like, no, that was too repetitive.
J.R. Ward books, man, read those, could not sleep. No, but they got really repetitive. It was like very much like a method to writing them that you kind of stuck to, like a formula, He's super tough and hard, like the toughest man she's ever, with like super built. He's very tall. He's got massive muscle. she's whatever normal or something, and she's never been into this, and then it's like so much sex and they think they're so bad for each other, there's gonna be some kind of trouble, and then they gotta get back together. It's like,
and then the same characters, or they're a different story for different characters each book?
It's in the Brotherhood, so you keep going. But it's and then they all I mean, they were all vampires, so maybe the naming came from that, but it was all the spelling as well.
Yes.
So they were like rage spelled wrong, and sex spelled with an X in the beginning, and you know, like they were all had these like destroyer and those kinds of names, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Who grabs a little baby and go like, oh, my cute little baby, I shall name him Rage. Or Sex, a good name for my girl. You know, like this, it was just, it got a bit weird. And then there was like one normal guy and his name was like John Matthews or something.
Yes.
It's like, all right, okie dokie. Anyways, we have read Legendborn this week.
Yes, talking
Tracy
about
Dion.
Series. This is going to be a series also.
It is, which I realized only towards the last 5 minutes of the book or so, where I was like, there's a lot of loose ends going on here. Why did they wait so long to wrap this up? Oh, they're not going to wrap it up. There's got to be more.
Yeah, but
I don't like this.
It says number 1.
Yeah, I missed that part.
Okay.
I just assumed, and I was like, well, it's really slow going in the beginning, and then it's like all these things are happening. I'm like, this book is almost over. Like, how are they going to pull all of this together? And then they just didn't.
No.
But my first comment after our prediction last week was that there are more people on fire because we caught on fire. So we had a fire theme with people on fire, which is always nice.
Yes. Fire books.
Fire books. Yes. So this book, do you have a super summary for it? You do.
Oh, I do.
A great super summary for it.
There's this girl, and she loves to wash her hair.
She does. It is true. She does love to wash her hair.
She loves to wash her hair, but wait, doesn't only just love to wash her hair, she loves to condition her hair.
But it's not really true, because she at one point has to wash her hair. She's very annoyed that she has to wash her hair because she wasn't going to touch it for at least another week, is what she literally said.
There's a girl. She's African American, and she washes her hair and talks about it often.
Yes.
Okay.
She talks about it often, but she doesn't do it often, right?
Yeah, she talks about it often.
All the time.
And she also has secret magic powers, but she doesn't know from where. And she is going to be the only one at 16 years old that uncovers all of the mysteries of this story.
Of course, because she's a main girl and she's 16 years old. But this book, I think we established last time that basically this is a story of Arthur and the Round Table, like Arthur Pendragon, like British, English king, you know, way back in the day, legend, Guinevere and Lancelot and all of the knights and all of this stuff. And basically what they did before they died was tie their bloodline to magic, to keep magic in it, to make sure that they could then possess their descendants in need when the crisis would arise and demons would try to take over the world. Am I doing this right?
It's very, very close.
Like,
Now, the real story of Arthur, he has an illegitimate child with a sister. Mm-hmm. And so there is incest. And then there is also a wife he has later on that then cheats on him with Lancelot.
Yeah, that's Guinevere.
Yeah. And so then there is cheating, and there's babies being made with all of these peoples.
So which line is it that then follows?
Exactly.
This gets confusing now.
Okay, now I'm going to be confused.
Yeah.
Where is the lineage, and why are we fast forwarded so far in the future where we are so lost to the lineage now?
Yeah.
And not only are we lost to the lineage from day one, we're lost in lineage because then their children's children then has slaves.
Yeah.
And
so it turns out, this is revealed right at the end of the book. So if you don't want spoilers, well, then you chose the wrong podcast.
That's what we do here.
Exactly. But basically, right towards the end, it turns out that Nick, who's supposed to be then the descendant of Arthur, and who was the Arthur's scion, who would then be possessed by Arthur, should Arthur call on him in case of, demon attacks, and Camlan is what they call it. it turns out, hey, he's not actually the descendant of Arthur. He is the descendant of Lancelot, because Lancelot's line, back in the early 1800s, the guy who was the scion of Lancelot had sex with Arthur's scion's wife and made a baby that is now Nick's forefather, I guess. And the scion of Arthur was a slave owner and decided to own not just the people but also their sexuality, and raped one of his enslaved people.
Or many.
But
because they
this
said that there's
specific story, we find out that there's been at least one rape of one woman, and then when he finds out that she is pregnant, he's basically, she gets the sense that he's going to hurt her, so she runs. And then because she comes from a line of root magic, which is the same kind of ether, is called root for some people, it's called ether for others. It has many names, but it's basically magic. Because she comes from a line of root users and mediums. Yeah, she makes a deal where she gets rescued, and then because her daughter is then the scion of Arthur, the bloods get mixed. So it turns out that Bree is not just the scion of Arthur 200 odd years later, she is also a very powerful medium and root magic user. Therefore, like, the most powerful person ever and ever and ever. Ever. They're very, very common in books like these. Most powerful ever. They're either very mundane and cannot do anything, or they're super powerful.
Right.
Yeah. It can never be. Or if you go Twilight, very mundane and average to absolutely best at being a newborn vampire.
Right. Yeah. Like super fast learner.
Yeah. Bree is not a super fast learner. She is fairly freaking useless. And I was annoyed with her uselessness most of the time. And I was annoyed with Nick's uselessness. He's basically been grown up in this society where they know that they're scions of the Arthur and the Round Table. And he knows that he could be called on by the king. And he knows that if the world is threatened by demons, he will be called upon. And he's like, screw this. I don't want anything to do with this. I want to live my life like a normal teenager because I don't care about the world.
Very typical privileged, annoying teenage boy.
Until Bree, he meets her, twice, and falls instantly madly in love with her and decides to come back and be the scion of Arthur. Which then turns out he's not even. He's the scion of Lancelot. But anyways.
Which throws a curveball in there for the fact that we find out that Bree is the scion of Arthur.
So basically, Nick and Bree can never have babies because their baby would then be the scion of Arthur and Lancelot, and that would not be good. So this would not work. And then it's also a lot of discussion in the end if their connection and the love between them is because of actually like attraction, or because of the long friendship bond between Lancelot and his closest, and his king, like King Arthur and his closest knight, Lancelot. Yeah.
My issue here with Bree was that because she's a medium, she can be possessed by souls, and so she has a lot of people in her head, like a lot of times. And this girl is
grandma, great grandma, and she got Arthur, and she got someone else too, right? But she has her grandma, and then her great, like the one that was raped, shows up and is like showing her the trauma and all that stuff.
And she gets the visions, and then she knows more about everyone else's family because she gets the visions from her ancestors.
There's like something called a memory walk.
Memory walk. I actually like that term. Yeah. That's nice. But like this girl's cray. She's full on not right in the head. Someone needs to get her some...
But she is in therapy. Unfortunately, the therapy is not very helpful because the therapist is literally making her more crazy by putting more people in her head, I would say.
Yeah.
Because her therapist is the one who connects her with the medium and who unlocks all of these powers and basically puts people in her head. So it doesn't feel like very good therapy to me.
No.
And then I struggled, honestly, a little bit with this book. And it was... probably I don't know why, but it was probably because it felt a little bit like a history lesson tried to be shoved into like a fantasy YA novel kind of thing. There was a lot of talk about enslavement and of Black people's history in the United States and even treatment today, which was, I mean, it was very interesting, but it felt kind of tacked on in some places. Like it wasn't really flowing with the narrative until you got to the very end and you understood what happened.
Right.
But then I was like, why am I reading this story in the 2000 with a 16-year-old girl? Why am I not reading the story of like the enslaved woman with where the line got broken? Like I would have read that book and how she survived, how she got out of it, how she, like that I would have loved to read. But this one, it felt more like she was very angry all of the time, Bree. But she's still very in love with Nick, who's technically like then the descendant very much of plantation slave owners and very like the stereotypical would have been terrible person in the South in the 1800s. Probably better now, but still.
But super white privilege.
Super white privilege, and it's just not. It's not really talked about him and their relationship. It's a lot of other things around Black history and especially in the United States and enslavement and all of this brought up, but it never touches on Nick and his part in this, and not even towards the end. Like they mentioned, also he's descendant from like slave owners. It's just kind of okay, that's what happened, and then it's move on. Whereas in other parts, it gets kind of a little. Not preachy, but a lot
of history. And then they sort of pass it on as, well, everyone did it. And especially the lines of all of these kings and things like that, white privileged males back in the time. So none of them are like free of guilt of the things that their ancestors had done.
And even towards the end, like when it's clear that Bree is Arthur's scion, so she is possessed, like he has awakened her, she is literally the king. Tor is still like, we're not going to listen to some black girl who does nothing, and it's like kneel, right? That's what she's like, kneel to me. But like also Arthur is awful. Yeah, no, but it was Arthur who was like, kneel. And then because Alice, Bree's best friend, goes and stands up to Tor, she's like, you're third rank, which is kind of funny, but
I know.
I don't know. It was weird. But anyways, it turns out that Camla and like the destruction of the world, which is basically when demons take over, wasn't actually happening. It was Nick's dad who was trying to force it because he wanted to be king. He wanted the glory of Arthur possessing, and then he'd aged out of it, so he couldn't actually be. So
and then he wasn't even in the line, so
no, he wouldn't. He would have been Lancelot regardless, but he didn't know that. But it's just Nick's dad is an awful person.
Yeah.
Like terrible. He's racist. He's misogynist. He clearly got rid of Nick's mom, and then he pretended to be nice and stuff. But it was clearly not the case. Terrible person. Yeah.
So this is just the first book. There's going to be more.
Yes.
And so far, what we know of the next book is now Nick is captured.
Yeah.
And Bree was saved after Arthur stopped possessing her by Sel. And there's going to be a romantic relationship there, I think.
But we're going to get to a love triangle.
Quest. Yeah, there's a love triangle that happens.
So I think I'm going to predict it right now. Bree is going to end up with Sel. Sel
is the Merlin.
Yeah, Sel is sworn to Nick because he was sworn to the king, but Nick is not the king. I think there's probably going to be a way of breaking that swearing so that he's going to be free, and then he's going to be with Bree. Because I think Nick and Bree are not going to happen. It's not going to work.
No, but that's the love story side of things. What's actually going to happen since there's no like story left now?
I know.
What's happening?
I know what's going to happen.
Tell me.
I'm going to tell you. So, basically what they're using for tying the round table of the kings to the blood is blood magic. And this is apparently bad and it takes without giving back. Whereas root magic is asking to borrow the magic from your ancestors. And then you can only borrow so much and then you have to give it back. So you have to replenish all the time. And the blood magic means that you have to pay with your life, which I found a bit weird, because if magic is a thing, then why are you paying with life? Regardless, it doesn't matter. So anyone who has been a scion or who has been awakened will not live past the age of 30. This is what they keep saying all the time. Like, they will die young because it takes too much, the blood magic. So I think Bree in book 3, I'm guessing, is going to actually figure out a way to break the bloodline free of the magic and return it to the earth, and then basically disassemble the round table, and it's going to be no more.
Okay, yeah, good.
So I think she's going to close all the gates, she's going to disassemble it, and I think that's what's going to happen in the end. This is basically going to make the world back to whatever tied bloodlines, and how the world must have survived before Arthur as well, and maybe find some other way of keeping the demons out.
I like that.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I think they need to disassemble the round table also, because they're all awful people.
Yeah, and it's not. It's like, I guess it's the way with kings, but inherited titles is it's not maybe the best way to run things. Like,
nope.
No. What if you get an asshole? You know, like,
yeah.
You need some choices in there. Anyways.
There's not the best parenting in those families either.
No. Anyways.
So that's going to be in book 3. And book 2 is going to be a journey book, as the book 2
They're
always
going to be
is.
walking from place 1 to place B. That's all they're going to do in book 2. It's going to be walking. It's going to be 1,000 pages of walking.
So really it is. It is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be walking. Okay. I'm telling you.
Well,
it's going to be
It comes out next year. It comes out next year.
Yes.
So look out for the release date of that. In the meantime, you have 18 hours to catch up to read the first one.
Better get on that. Or you wait until the next one's out. I mean, I do reading stuff all in one sitting. I did like this book. It's not my favorite, but it was a decent read. I wasn't very connected to Bree. I think she was a bit too angry at everything. Like, people were trying to help her, people were trying to talk to her, and she would just snap at them, and then she would lie and then be surprised when people were annoyed with her because of her lies. Anyways, she's only 16. 16-year-olds can be assholes, so maybe she'll grow out of that. Let's hope for that.
And I thought that we were right in our predictions of all of the trope things.
Yeah.
So that was correct. And even the betrayals of all of the betrayals happened also.
Not the best friend, though. But she was kind of forced to betray her because she was on the magic.
Exactly.
My prediction of them all dying in the end was not accurate, unfortunately. But, we can't win them all.
Yeah.
Moving on, I decided I wanted heist books.
Yes. And I'm like, hell yeah. I love heist books too.
Like, Six of Crows is like...
But it's a top book of all time.
So good. So that heist is just so amazing.
But this really hard to compare to. There's a lot of heist books go cheesy. You know what I mean? And they follow a lot of similar tropes. We're talking about like Ocean's 11 kind of heist. It's fun to watch. When you read it, it's kind of yawny.
Yeah.
But this, I was excited to read. And so you chose a book
I gave you a bunch of options.
Did you?
I found like 5 or 6 different ones. And we settled on Spellhacker by M.K. England. I'm not sure why I even put this on the list. It was on a list of good heist books. And I think you chose it because it was an audiobook and an ebook.
I do. And because I like to switch these days between reading and listening.
This is the main reason we're reading this book. Let's be realistic here. And so far, it's weird.
It's so weird.
It is so weird.
But when we're talking about series now, I want to say, I think we got jumped into a middle of a series.
But I don't think so.
But like this book has to be a book after a series of books where we find out already who these characters are, already this world, already the terms. Because I have highlighted. This is so Lia of me because I am not. Can you believe that I highlighted something?
This is excellent. You're finding features in your reading app. This is excellent.
No, okay, but look,
I'm double checking here, but there's no other books in this series.
I highlighted the stuff that makes me feel like, what am I reading? Why am I so lost? Magnaz, that's acting up. This will be almost entirely Tiraz.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means nothing. That's the thing.
Piece of the weave and begins again repairing. Really hope you wear your ware, W-A-R-E, holds you. And most of the time, I'm glad I'm no good with Maz. I've gotten used to being around it again after the plague. But that doesn't mean I want my hands all up in it.
Yeah, no, it's weird. So basically this book, it starts with our main girl who's Diz or Dizzy. She's a part of a crew that steals mass, which is slang for magic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They have tech and contact lenses, and they can communicate sub-vocally, which has also been thrown in there quite a lot. But her lenses and her sub-vocal thing are acting up, so she struggles a bit with sending messages, even though she's allegedly very good at tech and can build anything, but she cannot fix her own stuff.
Is that weaving wards?
No.
Okay.
So Dizzy is... the way I see it, she's like proper imagined future hacker girl. Like she's like stereotype. Like just think of, dystopian, future hacker, punkish.
Punk, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay,
she has half a shaved head.
Yeah.
She talks to her apartment computer. She calls it like sparkly unicorn something or other. I can't remember the name. And she is good with tech. But then she also says that she's not a hacker, but then she is a hacker, but she's good with hardware and tech, but she's part of a crew, and someone else has one of the other roles that's good with, like, something she's not good at, but it's very unclear, this part. I got very unclear here. And in the world, there's mass or magic that can be wielded by those who feel it inherently, which are mass weavers, or by those who need tech to do it. Tech witches, or I guess tech wizards. There's only tech witch, as far as I've met so far.
Yeah.
And then there are mundies or mundanes who cannot use mass at all. Dizzy is mundane, but a hardware tech person and hacker.
Yeah.
And mass used to be readily available all around them, but that's not the case anymore since the mass plague, or the spell plague, killed a lot of people. Now it's contained and sold through a mass corporation. And Dizzy and her friends, Anya, who's rich, who's the only one who still has their parents, Remy, who's non-binary person, and Jason, who's good at something.
Shall we just say Jason is spelled Jaesin?
I don't know this. I don't know this because
just so you know,
am not reading it.
This is Jason's spelling.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Okay. Jason
yes,
steals mass from the corporation that controls it and sells it on the black market. And we join them right in the middle of the end of their last job ever stealing. And Diz is about to be caught, and she gets the help of Anya to get her out of it. And in 7 days, Diz's 3 friends will move away from the city. One of them will go to university in a different city. The other one's going there for some reason I'm unclear of. And the rich girl, she's going to some fancy university for rich people. The only one who's staying is Diz, and she's been offered a job for the mass corporation they've been stealing mass from by her cousin. And the city they live in, Kikarta, something like that, is plagued by earthquakes and fissures that leak plagued mass.
Okay.
So like spell plague kind of thing. And there's an earthquake as they're on the way home, and they have to, like, all the people that have the mass can then try to reinforce the protection against it. But because you have to buy it, the supply is not high for most people. You hardly have any and stuff. So it's expensive to join in and save this. And all the houses are reinforced and all that stuff. Diz talks about starting this new job. Her friends are not happy about it because they hate this mass corporation. And this last week before they all move away, they are basically planning on partying for 7 days straight. And this corporation are the ones that took care of the orphans that the spell plague generated. And they are also apparently working on a cure for the spell plague. But they're also the only ones who owns and controls mass and does all the selling of it. So I'm predicting that this corporation is evil and probably the cause of the plague in the first place, because this would be right on par with tropey with these kinds of stories. Diz and her friends will find out about it one way or another and restore the world back to the way it used to be when mass was free for everyone to use. And then I did a nice little parallel draw to the Lorax, you know? The world is so poisoned by disgusting air that you need to pay for your air. It's kind of like that. Mass, they did something to it, made people sick, so now they control it and they get to sell it and make a profit for something that used to be free for everyone. This is what I think.
I am so impressed that you have followed along.
And then I go like, this is the Lorax, but in a futuristic, witchy science fiction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
My prediction was, what the heck is going on?
Fair enough.
I was so,
no. I had to stop
lost.
to write this down. Like, I was like stopping, typing, or like, okay.
I spent so much time highlighting, being like, what is happening? I have to ask Lia about this and about this. Okay, there's these witches. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I think I have to listen to this because when I read it, I hear, because it's so slang the entire time, a surfer dude's voice. So, like, yes, I know that this is a girl, but I still put her into a masculine surfer voice.
And Diz has a crush on Remy.
Yeah. And
Diz is also...
I get super lost. Or disconnected to the characters. One thing she said that made me laugh, and I was like, oh, I'm going to like this book because it was hilarious. She was threatening somebody and said that he can eat 1,000 bees. I was like, that's actually hilarious. There's always like a number that you use when you want to exaggerate something.
Yeah.
With me, I would go in sevens or 70 or 700 or 7 million. And hers was 1,000 bees, and I was like, solid.
But this is
1,000
like a world.
bees is a lot.
It is a lot. But this is a world like textbook, what will the future look like? It's like they have credits, they have little palm computer things where you can show your credit. It's the like the tech in the lenses in the eye. You can display maps over your vision. It's very like textbook futuristic, like what we really think the future is.
I need to put
like.
my mindset in the future and not in the magic medieval times like all the other
Yeah, it was a
fantasy
little bit of
books
a jump from Arthur's Round Table straight into this King Carda world. I have to
with
say.
a mass and
And I'm so sad you showed me the spelling of Jason. Like, I will not get beyond this now. Like, I'm gonna hate this every
I
time
love that
hear
I
the name.
actually highlighted it. Jason.
Jason. All right. Well, we have another 9 or so hours of this to go. So we better get to it.
Happy reading.
Happy reading. Bye.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia Sandfö. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.